The light breaks. It's the sun making its slow and measured approach above the horizon. Like many of us, emerging beyond the white curtain. We sing, like Langston Hughes once wrote in the singular, I too sing America. We play without the masks that Dunbar scripted so long ago. And we compose the music that must be, is being heard with ears that would not hear before. We are departing the kitchen of the darker brother. This is the tomorrow, and the table is set. Welcome to Classical Music in Color. I'm Judeland Gibson. A poet once described the month of May as being spring's last-born darling. While it is the last full month of spring, it's been anything but darling. Children and teachers shot to death in Uvalde, Texas. 10 people shot to death in Buffalo, New York. This pain, anguish, and anger does not seem to have an end. And then there's Memorial Day, the day we honor those who died in service to our country. Stay tuned to the end of the show for a special tribute. Our main story is about Castle of Our Skins of Boston. Ashleigh Gordon and Anthony Green are amazed that the organization they created a decade ago to expose black composers and BIPOC musicians to a wider world is doing just that and more. No, I did not forget the second anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. That was May 25th. The Color of Music Festival has released a memorial video montage in his honor. The music is William Grant Still's Afro-American Symphony. It's accompanied by photos of the worldwide outrage about Floyd's murder in 2020. In Minneapolis, where he was killed, the Minnesota Orchestra has commissioned composer Carlos Simon and librettist Mark Bamuthi Joseph to compose a major work for orchestra and choir. They're calling it Breath, spelled B-R-E-A, parenthesis D, closed parenthesis T-H. The Minnesota Orchestra will premiere the piece in May of 2023, with hopes that it will not be lost in the aura of these times and will be performed often by as many orchestras and choirs as possible in remembrance of that awful day. Coming up, an interview with Ashleigh Gordon of Castle of Our Skins out of Boston. In that vein, we'll be airing 3 of their miniatures in our breaks. These are very short compositions the organization is using this year as a fundraiser for the National Negro Opera Company building in Pittsburgh. More about that later, but now, hear the first of the miniatures. This one is Journey for Justice, composed by Gary Powell Nash. Journey for Justice, composed by Gary Powell Nash. It was performed by Orlando Sala on flute and Charles Overton playing the harp. And now, Ashleigh Gordon of Castle of Our Skins. This group was founded 10 years ago in Boston with Gordon and her friend, composer, and all-around musician, Anthony Green. Their aim is to embellish and amplify the works of black composers, past, present, and future. Doesn't seem like 10 years. I'm sure it
I
seems
know.
for you it was like you looked up and it was 10 years. How did I get
That
there?
is exactly how it felt. So, yeah, a lot of reflection backwards and highlighting things that we've done, and then also thinking, well, now what else? What else can we add to our playground of things to do?
The sound you'll be hearing in the background is someone doing dishes, just so you know.
So to kick off year 10, we're having a ball, and it's a very special ball called a mask ball. Mask spelled a little bit differently, MASSQ, and based on the amazingly beautiful art practice of co-producer and artist Daniel Callahan, who uses the face as a canvas to create what he calls these masks. And it's very much based on indigenous practices of body decoration. So we are turning ourselves into walking works of art and celebrating a whole host of communities of color in artistic ways. So Brazilian capoeira, Japanese taiko drum, Korean fan dancers, Castle of Our Skins will be playing. We have indigenous dancers as well, and just all sorts of communities of color, masked, reclaiming their space. So that is July 9th in Boston at the Arnold Arboretum. And we are doing some fundraising. That's our largest project to date. It's about $90,000 as a budget, and we're trying to raise the remaining 20,000.
Let's talk about the miniature challenge.
Sure. Well, it was definitely a project that was born out of the pandemic and largely dreamed up by Anthony Green, co-founder Anthony R. Green. And the idea was to allow for composers whose timetable just as performers was completely wiped out with premieres and work and motivation. So we had a miniature 30 seconds challenge to write a piece for either, last year it was solo viola, solo piano, or viola piano duo. And this is our second volume. So similar minded 30-second miniatures for either solo, duo, this time being for flute and or harp, flute, piccolo, alto flute, and or harp. So we do have intentions of actually continuing this, spoiler alert, to do our next call, which is actually out now, I believe, for voice and cello, and then a fourth one, which will be all of the above instruments, so viola, piano, flute, harp, voice, and cello.
All in 30 seconds.
All we might expand the chamber, the larger chamber one to like 60 seconds, but the idea is still being a bite-size tapas style introduction into someone's body of work.
This particular miniature challenge, you're raising money for the National Negro Opera Company.
I very much am interested, as a result of this organization, Castle of Our Skins, in history and preservation of history, in illuminating history, in sharing stories, and very much wanted to do something to help support their efforts. The National Negro Opera House being one of America's 11th most endangered historic places, and definitely want to keep that history alive. So this idea of trying to do something that could, yes, bring some dollars to their efforts, but also help keep their story in front of people's eyes and hearts, right? So keeping their efforts alive ended up materializing into this project, which was to sell our anthology, our second volume of Black Composer Miniature Challenge minis, and have all of those proceeds go to the National Negro Opera Company.
Here is the second of 3 miniatures we're featuring on the show from Castle of Our Skins. This one is Pavan of the Morning Sun, composed by Kevin Scott. Pavane of the Morning Sun, composed by Kevin Scott. Performers were flutist Orlando Sala and Charles Overton on the harp. There is another project on the menu for Ashleigh Gordon and Castle of Our Skins. Creative in Residence applications. Let's talk about that.
Sure. So another pandemic project was to invite a creative of any genre, any discipline to work with Castle of Our Skins for an entire season. So we had in the past composer in residence, we had in the past call for proposals, and this felt very natural for us to just open it up to any creative. So yes, Castle of Our Skins does music, but we also do music plus, I like to say now at this point, so other artistic disciplines. And we're really excited by the possibility of being challenged to work with someone who is just totally new and whose discipline we'd have to figure out how we can communicate with. So we started this last season and had a really fantastic Zimbabwean scholar, singer, composer, educator, Tanya Radzwa Tawengwa, join us for the entire season. And this season we had a poet from South Carolina also join us, Marlinda Duquesne, and have a call for our third creative in residence. Again, any discipline, as long as you have interest and sort of a like-minded mission as Castle of Our Skin. So you don't have to be African diasporic, just making sure that your work coincides with our mission to join us next season.
Are you surprised by your growth and success?
The surge of it, yes, and trying to stay one step ahead of it. I very much feel like I'm 30, feet behind it, but to try to still stay ahead of it and like trim it, shape it, still have a little bit of an influence in it. So many things that are just coming our way, and it feels overabundant. I am a little bit jet lagged as I talk with you because I just came back from England performing and recording, doing workshops, and just having a great time with Dr. Samantha Ege, who is a Florence Prize Scholar and a fellow at Lincoln College in Oxford University. And it was great for Castle of Our Skins to come over and again record our first album, so stay tuned, and perform alongside with her and make new connections. So that kind of opportunity has been such a blessing.
Now here is the last of the 3 miniatures we've been featuring on the show. This one is called Mere Mortals by Ahmed Al-Abaka. Mere Mortals by Ahmed Al-Abaka, performed once again by Orlando Sala on flute and Charles Overton on the harp. If you'd like to get in touch with Ashleigh Gordon or anyone at Castle of Our Skins, the links are on the Classical Music in Color page on secondstreetdreams.com. Our coda this month is once again the weary sadness and anger that we are all feeling since the massacre in Uvalde and Buffalo. I'm hoping and praying that this terror will end forever. And as a Memorial Day tribute to the men and women who gave their lives in service to our country, here's Going Home. It's from the second movement of Dvorak's From the New World Symphony, and it's performed by the Air Force Ceremonial Brass. Narration is by General Charles Quentin Brown, Jr. He is the first African-American Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the first African-American to lead any branch of the United States Armed Forces.
Each Memorial Day, we honor the sacrifices, courage, and valor of those service members who have given the last full measure of devotion in service to our great nation. On this most solemn of days, we turn our hearts to our fallen heroes and honor their bravery. As we march onward with aspirations of greatness, let us never forget on whose shoulders we stand, these fallen patriots who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
A Memorial Day tribute. The piece, Going Home, performed by the Air Force Ceremonial Brass, with narration by General Charles Quentin Brown, Jr. Links are on the Classical Music in Color page on secondstreetdreams.com. Thank you for listening to the May-June 2022 edition of Classical Music in Color. We're the Second Street Dreams audio network on the radio and on the Triple W. I'm Judelyn Gibson.